that I'm going to give it to Jake and then Andy, because I think it's so critical. You mentioned the word denial. Let's talk about two facets: the person being in denial and the family being in denial. Oh, my son doesn't have a problem. My son's not so bad. And like, or, I remember someone saying about my community, oh, my town doesn't have a problem with drugs. Maybe the other town, but not my town. So let's talk about first the person being in denial who has a drug issue and the family being in denial. Jake.
Absolutely. For any of us, it's incredibly difficult to put out that we have a problem. But in order to really move forward, in treatment, the only way, as Andy says, to change is to really, the client has to understand that it is a problem. You could talk to the client till you're blue in the face, and families can do the same. But ultimately, if they do want to change, it's got to come from them. Families, it's, a lot of people have embarrassment, in seeing, their son or daughter who has substance abuse. But understanding, I always try to take an empowered stance when I see a client who has substance abuse. To me, they are simply trying to do the best that they can and cope. And it's amazing the crossover of mental health and its relations to substance abuse. Many clients that I see get into a car accident. They've lost someone who they're very close to, there's so many different transitional changes that happen to them that they are really trying to do the best that they can. It's about making that simple shift and, putting strength in what they're trying to do. Is they're trying to change and they're trying to feel good. That's great. Let's try to reframe that. Let's try to find alternative ways so that you can feel good. And oftentimes, to treat a client with substance abuse, you have to get into the underlying issues of what has led, that person to that drug or that drink. Is it the social groups? Is it some, depression or, so mental health and substance abuse are really connected. So it's finding root to that. But family roles play a big impact in it. You could really help out someone who has substance abuse by, really, not allowing them to almost see the problem for what it is. And I think, if you, enable, the individual, they're going to find ways to drink. So for them, they really have to find a way, and you have to set strict boundaries, and, you can't operate the same way as you did. You really have to, have them see the problem, and you have to change the way that you treat someone with an addiction. Yes.
Well, I think when we're talking about the family and the individual who is experience a drug or alcohol problem, we have to think about stigma. And as I've talked about before on the show, that drug and alcohol addiction, just as mental illness, is a disease of the brain. And what we have to do is to start treating problems above the neck the same as we treat problems below the neck. And when an individual has a physical health problem, a family rallies around them, whether it's diabetes or cancer or asthma or a broken limb. The family rallies around, the community rallies around, and it's not a secret. With drug and alcohol issues, it's a secret. There's a feeling of shame that goes along with stigma. And so the denial for the family is really in large part also where stigma springs from. And it springs from, the very earliest memories that we have when we learned about how people sought help for drug and alcohol issues. And it really wasn't that long ago when you think about it. It was back in 1935 when a guy named Bill W. and another guy named Dr. Bob were suffering from alcoholism. But that was a time in our history when alcoholism, which is a drug, alcohol is a drug for those who may not understand that. That was a time when alcoholism was seen as a moral weakness or a character flaw. And so the way that you got better was to get religion, to go to classes in order to improve your level of morality. But what these two guys discovered was that when they talked to each other and they revealed some of the secrets about how they felt about their lives having succumbed to this disease, that they felt a tremendous amount of support. And that was the origin of the recovery movement, of the 12-step movement, which we know as Alcoholics Anonymous, which grew and grew over the years to include Narcotics Anonymous and a variety of other what's known as self-help support groups, and also support groups for family members. So family members were brought into the fold, whether it's Al-Anon for spouses and family members of alcoholics, or Nar-Anon for family members of people who are abusing other kinds of drugs. And there's many other groups, whether it's related to gambling and so forth. So this was part of what was known as a recovery movement, and it, you know, they developed a structure in which people went through a number of steps in order to get the help that they needed, and would have a sponsor, someone that's been through the process before, that they could call at any, you know, at any point in time. And so that was really the early development. And then here we are, you know, not even 100 years later, and there are some new developments around the treatment of drug and alcohol addiction. But the recovery movement and the concept of support, the concept of the family being involved, you know, has gone a long way towards chipping away at the stigma. But these are secret groups, and they're secret because there's always that concern of society and what their view of this kind of disease, this brain disease, this disease above the neck, it means for them. And so we've come a very long way, and we still have a long way to go, as the statistics and the crisis that brought this program together really suggests.